Hola, padres y estudiantes, bienvenidos. Welcome to Spanish class with Profe Delgadillo. My name is Berta Delgadillo, and I have a master's in Spanish education, and I have a master's in education as well. I am a national board certified teacher. I am a mental health advocate, and I have also been recognized as the Life Changer of the Year in 2019. This is an education award nationwide, and I've also received in 2016 the Flag Teacher of Promise Award. Why do I mention this? Because I want to share with you that your learner and you, my student, are going to be in great hands. I really enjoy what I do, and I could be doing so many things being bilingual. But every year, even after the pandemic, I choose to come back to the classroom because I genuinely enjoy giving the gift of the beginning of language, because language takes time to develop. Think about all the time it has taken you to develop your own English language or your first language. Well, first things first, let's talk about my classes this semester. You're either going to be with me either on Spanish 2 or Spanish 3 this fall semester, or maybe in the spring, you're going to be in my Spanish 2 or my AP Spanish class. And regardless, I look forward to seeing you, and I look forward to guiding you through your acquisition of a second or perhaps third language. So for parents, maybe you're wondering, what will Spanish be like for my child this year? Uh, and oh my God, every time I hear this, I took Spanish in high school for 4 years, and I took Spanish in high school for 2 years in college, and I don't remember a thing. Every open house, when I hear this from parents, it doesn't bother me at all. But I just wish I had $1 for every time somebody said that. I would have funded my entire classroom already. I don't want this to be the story for your child. In fact, I want your child to have a solid foundation, and I want him or her to become the person in charge of their lifetime language journey, because it takes time to get better at a language. Now, I will tell you how I don't teach. I don't make my students memorize endless list of vocabulary. I do provide vocabulary for them, but they're going to actually I'm gonna contextualize it for them, and if they are listening and if they are active participants in class as they should be, they are going to naturally absorb this vocabulary, because again, they are doing hard work. Just because they don't have to take the list and go home and memorize it, that doesn't mean they're not going to have anything to work with. They need to be in the class, they need to listen to the messages. Every message I give to them using the vocabulary we're working through is an opportunity to process that language, and that is very rigorous in itself. I also don't teach students how to conjugate verbs in Spanish in English, because research says that we should be talking to our learners in the target language in a way that is comprehensible to them most of the time for them to acquire the language. In fact, that is how many people, when they, for example, Spanish speakers come to the United States, they will learn language that is relevant to them by absorbing messages that are comprehensible to some level to them. So we don't teach grammar in English, because that honestly takes away a lot of class time, and that takes away from that processing of language that we could be using instead of doing grammar charts, because that's probably what you did. And that's why we hear that story of, oh, 4 years in high school, I know how to conjugate verbs, maybe I remember, but I don't know how to produce language. For that reason, this is not the way I teach language in my classroom. Can students obtain some grammar study if they choose to? Because I do understand some students enjoy to have additional learning experiences, and some students perhaps do benefit from this. Yes, they can talk to me and they can say, I would love to, in addition to what I'm doing in the class, I would love to push myself to learn some grammar, something about the grammar. But grammar is not beneficial for all learners, and grammar is not necessary for all learners to learn a language. Now, I will also push your child to learn. What does this mean? This means that while I don't give homework, you will see on my website that I have tons of websites and places they can go and practice more at home, but I don't give homework. However, when they are in my class, for the 90 minutes, I do want 110% of their undivided attention. So I will push them to learn and to acquire this language. And one of the ways that I really talk to them that stands in the way between me and the student is the cell phone. For that reason, they are only allowed to have their cell phone if we are working with it for some purpose in class. Also, what is Spanish going to be like for your child? Here's the question again. This is the way that I deliver language. I facilitate a language acquisition experience, meaning that I craft a lesson plan, and you are going to have access to what the plan is going to look like. Your learner can show you that through my Google Classroom, and you will know exactly what topics we're going to be talking about, but that is subject to change. The reason why that is subject to change is because things happen, and maybe in the news something becomes so big, and by that I mean, for example, the year that Shakira and Jennifer Lopez were in the Super Bowl. So maybe I want to talk about that, because normally after Super Bowl time, they always want to talk about the Super Bowl, regardless of who was in center stage. So maybe I want to create a lesson based of that. Maybe I want to create a lesson based on my students' interests, because maybe they're not interested in the first lesson I created. So I tweak a lot of my lessons by listening to my learners. But I do that so that they can be invested, interested, engaged. Language acquisition happens best when students are receptive to the messages I'm giving them. So if I maybe bring a topic that is just not of interest for them, there's not much acquisition going to happen there. Also, I plan for a variety of culturally rich and compelling activities. One way that we do that is by looking at our calendar and talking about real people in the Spanish-speaking countries, and we study different aspects of that. You'll see that happen in our class. Ask your child, what are you studying right now in Spanish class? And they'll tell you. The messages that I deliver, that means the content that I deliver, regardless of the unit or theme we're doing, are understandable, and I provide all the support they need so that they don't have to opt out of the work. If they ever have a question, if something is not unclear, I am available for tutorials after school on Mondays and by appointment. I also love to say and love to actually do honor and give my students choices, because I want them to be able to showcase their talents and showcase who they really are. So how do I do this? I already explained to you how I do this, but there's actually some research about this. And here's a picture of me with Dr. Krashen. Dr. Krashen has been quoted hundreds of times in language research, and he talks about the difference between learning a language, which is, the whole grammar and English, so that you're not really exposed to any language or much language at all, versus acquiring a language, and that's listening to messages that are compelling and interesting in ways that can be understood. My job is to make sure that language is understood by your child, and I do that by providing them input plus one. That means language that they can understand, and maybe take it a step further so that they're not too confused. And we also want to make sure that the students have a low affective filter. What do I mean by that? That the student feels relaxed, that the student is not scared to take risks using the language in class. For this reason, I pride myself in cultivating a beautiful classroom community. And if a student ever gets in the way of that, then that is when I will call home and I will get your help to assist me in making sure that the learner is supporting the class community in a very positive way, because it is scary sometimes to use the language when people around you are not people you know. And we want to make sure we break out of that and we are super comfortable practicing our language skills in the class day in and day out. Also, the I+1 means that, I give them input, and I give them the input that they know, plus something a little bit more challenging and something new. So that way the student stays on task. If I just make it really, really easy for them, they're going to be bored out of their mind. And if I make it too hard, I understand they're going to check out of me. And that's not something I want. I want all learners to be with me 100% of the time. We do this through games in the classroom, stories in the classroom, songs. I mean, all this online, I leverage a lot with online components as well, especially when I am attending and presenting at conferences. I'm not gone a lot, but when I am gone, it's because I'm either presenting at a conference or attending professional development. And when I do this, I leverage the class with technology. So rest assured, if I am gone from the classroom, your learner will have something meaningful that will allow them to continue their language journey, whether I'm there or not. How do I present vocabulary? Slowly, because it is a piecemeal process to acquire a language. In context, I make it come to life as much as I can and connect it to the learner. And then with visual, auditory, and kinesthetic support. So yes, we move a lot in my class, and I make the students get up, which is and move around a lot, which is why we don't have desk in the classroom. Rest assured that when students have to write for a long time, or if they have to be on the computer, I do have another section in the classroom that has tables where they can go and they can work in there with a surface. I want to remind you that acquisition is a slow process, acquisition of a language. It varies for everybody, but we must be patient. First, students are going to become really strong in reading and listening in the language. Their writing skill then follows, and then their speaking looks kind of like this. It's not going to be perfect. In fact, if you check the American Council of Languages guidelines, performance descriptors of novice learners, intermediate learners, all the way to advanced learners, the students are making mistakes, and mistakes are part of the process, and that is okay. That just means we need to have more exposure to the language in meaningful ways, as I have been mentioning. But I wanted to share this with you because they're going to be a lot stronger in their comprehension, and it takes time to get to the writing and the speaking. We do all of this in the classroom, but again, what's going to be stronger is going to be the reading and listening. But we're going to work on every single skill. That's why you will see a lot of listening activities, a lot of reading activities, a lot of supported writing activities, and a lot of supported speaking activities, and a lot of partner speaking activities as well. So when your learner gets this opportunity, I just want to challenge them to do their best, even if they make mistakes, because that is okay. So you can help me out a lot, parent. Maybe you're thinking, how can I help my child in your class if I don't speak Spanish? If you don't speak Spanish, please, I beg you, you can help me out a lot. You can help me out a lot by making sure your student comes to my class on time every day. That is very important, so that they don't miss a beat. And then also, you can make sure that your child sleeps well at night. I cannot tell you, not just in my class, I know that in other classes this happens, and my class is very, very active. However, sometimes the student maybe is not sleeping because, again, we are a deskless classroom, but the student definitely is too tired, and that is probably because they did not get a good night rest. And it would mean the world to me if you could support me by making sure your child goes to sleep at a time that is going to allow them to have the best learning experience possible, not just in my class, but the all other classes. Also, I want to encourage you, and I know you do this already, but please have this talk with your learner once again before they come to school, and that is the talk about respect, and also a talk about making wise decisions, which is important, and that means when it comes to using a device. Devices are allowed in my classroom, but we only use them when we are maybe playing a game that requires us a login or something like that. Or maybe we are creating a video and we need it. And that is when I highly recommend using the phone or a Chromebook. And phones are not necessary, but I really, really, really want your support. And if I seem to have a disagreement with your child about the way they're using their phone in my class, rest assured I will be calling you and letting you know, because phones, I cannot compete with TikTok. I cannot compete with Instagram. As engaging as I try to make my lessons, I cannot compete with that, and I refuse to compete with that. It is ultimately up to the learner to make those wise decisions and abstain from using the phone. I also can't compete with boyfriends and girlfriends. So please help me out, and just by having this conversation with your learner about the importance of knowing when to use the phone in the classroom. Finally, I want to remind you, I am passionate about language acquisition in general, leading my students to not, even if they are only with me for level 1 and level 2, and they decide not to go to level 3, which we do have a level 3 at our school. But if they can, or they just, they just want or whatever, I want them to continue to stay connected to the language and fall in love with the cultures where this beautiful language of Spanish is spoken. I'm also big in social emotional learning, and I already mentioned I'm a mental health advocate, being that I have gone through, as a result of the pandemic, I've had to deal with anxiety and things like that on my own self. And I am prepared to support your learner with that if that is needed in my classroom. I always put them first, and I always love to know genuinely how they're doing, and I'm always going to be rooting for them, which is, I am super passionate about student success, and that looks different for every student. For some students, that might mean going to college, for others joining the military, for others joining the workforce. Wherever that is for your child, I want to support them all the way. They can always count on me for that. And if they know me, they already know this is true. And if they don't know me, they will find out it is true. And I'm not just saying words over here. It really means a lot to me to be able to support them all the way. Finally, thank you for your time and attention. This video is probably a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but I am absolutely overjoyed to be able to serve your child this year at our school. My office hours and my planning time is from 7:40 to 9:15, and I'm also available 2:45 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. On Mondays after school. That's when my tutorial is happening. If you need to reach me, you can reach me at my email, berta.delgadillo@sccpss. I do have an Instagram account, and many times I share activities that we do in the classroom if you want to follow that. And I also have a resource website. So you will find the syllabus, you will find all this information actually in that resource website, as well as other links that are useful and resources and places where you, the parent and the student, can learn some Spanish as well. This is my school phone number. This is my extension. If I don't answer because I'm teaching or I'm just not in the classroom, please leave me a message with your name and your last name and who you're calling for, just so that I'm able to connect with you and say your name correctly. Thank you so much for your attention. I cannot wait to have the best semester ever with your child.